You're talking about how women deserve less because they emasculize men, because they're cheating, because they're doing all this, but men also do the same thing in reverse. It's not just because women are women that they deserve less.
My position is we live in a society where, women are equal to men. And I think if a guy's going to get a relationship with a girl or a woman and is going to be successful, she needs to understand that you're the boss and you're the leader. So she's got to be knocked down a peg and understand that she's not equal to you so that you can assume your rightful position as the dominant leader.
Here's the thing. Women and men, they need each other because women provide...
For a family, right?
Not just for a family, mentally, cognitively speaking.
No, I disagree with that. Men don't need women for becoming successful, for being a winner, for making money. I would argue, actually, as a matter of fact, I would argue women are actually a detriment to that cause.
Why?
Because they're a distraction.
So, with the statement, women deserve less, my two main issues are, one, it's too vague, and two, it's just incorrect, factually.
Sure.
So, what are your defenses to that?
Okay, what was your other point of contention?
Well, you're talking about how women deserve less because they emasculize men, because they're cheating, because they're doing all this, but men also do the same thing in reverse. And would you say that all men deserve less because there's a few men that are really bad people?
Okay, I guess we could tackle the first thing and then the second thing. So you disagree with the concept that women deserve less?
Yes.
Because you're saying it's too broad.
It's broad, and you're saying, by saying that, you're saying 100% of women deserve less.
All right, so there's always nuance with things. My position on this is we live in a society where, women are equal to men. And I think if a guy's going to get a relationship with a girl or a woman and is going to be successful, she needs to understand that you're the boss and you're the leader. So she's got to be knocked down a peg and understand that she's not equal to you so that you can assume your rightful position as the dominant leader. So that's what I mean when I say women deserve less. Also, guys simp too much. We have another problem with guys simping on girls,
right,
giving girls money on OnlyFans and shit like that and everything else like that. So
exactly.
Cry harder.
What I'm saying is it goes both ways. It's not just because some women are a bad, I think it really depends on the person. It's not necessarily the sex, but the person. And if they're just a bad person, then you could say they deserve less. It's not just because women are women that they deserve less. And when it comes to men being the leader, that also...
I think in general, men need to come from the perspective where she needs to prove herself to me. Because you got to understand that, we've overcorrected thanks to feminism. Because this is what I call the proverbial double dip. Women can choose to go to school, get a career, and be just like a guy. But at the same time, they could go ahead and choose to find a rich man and be a housewife. So what I'm saying is, since they have all this leverage in the dating marketplace, right, and that leads to a lot of entitlement, guys need to kind of go in with their eyes wide open and understand that you need to kind of put her through her paces. What I'm basically telling men to do is be extremely selective with women. And here's the thing. Women are extremely selective with us. Women are pickier now than ever before. But I find it interesting when I tell guys to practice the same thing, it comes with a problem. It kind of speaks to the point I've been making forever. Men can't have standards, but women can. Women can demand excellence, but men can't. If a man criticizes a woman for not doing her part, he's a misogynist. If a woman criticizes a man for not doing his part, she knows her worth. There's a wild double standard that just isn't acceptable.
I'm not disagreeing with the double standard, but I do think it goes both ways, because what about a high-quality man, using your words? He needs to be selective in finding a high-quality woman. A high-quality woman needs to be selective in finding a high-quality man. Well, because there's trash on both sides of the equation.
No, I would argue that the higher status you are and the more money and resources you have to give them even less. You have to be even more selective.
Well, but here's the thing: women and men, they need each other because women provide
for a family, right?
Not just for a family, mentally, cognitively speaking.
No, I disagree with that. The reality is men need women to create families, right, and have a nuclear family that's stable. But men don't need women for becoming successful, for being a winner, for making money. I would argue, actually, as a matter of fact, I would argue women are actually a detriment to that cause.
Why?
Because they're a distraction.
See, but that's just so incredibly vague.
So there's so I'll explain to you. My guy, Aaron Clary, he has a book. It's called The Book of Numbers, right? And in the book, he pretty much calculated what the average man would spend in his pursuit of women. Something to the tune of $7 to $8 million, right? Now imagine if he put up a serious relationship for a bit longer, invested that money, focused 100%, grinded, you can become that guy, then decide to have a family and have a woman. Because the problem is that single income is no longer acceptable. So guys have to make significantly more money to be that provider, that protector, that of a traditional sense. So what I'm saying is that the pursuit of women a lot of times hinders men's ability to rise up the socioeconomic scale.
A high quality woman, you cannot put a monetary value on because she could guide you in making decisions that you could not see because of your own narrow ways of thinking as a man. Because women do have cognitively better ways of thinking in different areas, such as emotional intelligence, that men are naturally not good at.
So here's the thing. Now, are there situations where there are women that can accentuate what you have, make life a bit easier, make it a bit better? Sure. But the reality is a majority of women don't. And the reason why a majority don't is because women don't have the same burden of performance as men do. They just don't. So their proclivity to work harder is not as existent as ours. Because we understand as men, from the time we're little boys, we're taught, get a job, go to school, become successful. Why? So that you can raise a family. Women, on the other hand, are taught, go to school, be successful, so that you don't need a man. So it's completely different. And then on top of that, they have the ability, with the proverbial double dip I mentioned before, to choose to not enter the workforce. So what I'm simply telling guys is the burden of performance is on you, and you have to perform nowadays, especially in this competitive marketplace. So that's why I say guys need to be extremely cognizant of this and be selective on the women that they deal with. Now, I see what you're saying. Oh, there's women out there that can help you. Sure. But I would argue having a network of competent men is far better than having one competent female by your side.
Okay. I mean, I understand your argument, but again, your argument is not necessarily what you're saying in your title, that women deserve less, because you're basing that off of social stigmas and majority of women. And when you talk about women, you're talking about women that you're putting them in like a bad, point of view. And that's just not the case for all
Well,
women.
that's where nuance and critical thinking and everything else come in. I think the safe way to go is to approach every relationship with a woman from a position of doubt. Prove to me you're not like the others. And I think if more men employed that tactic, we'd be in a better situation.
Right. And it goes both ways. But yeah, that's it.
Well, women naturally already do this. That's the point. Women naturally filter men out quickly. Men don't have this skill set like they do.
Well, they should.
Should, could, and would are fantastic words, but it doesn't happen all the time. And this is why we do what we do, to tell guys, you need to date and think like a woman. But the problem is that a lot of guys don't. And that's why we have the fucked up dating situation that we have now.
Okay. Well, will you admit that women deserve less as a whole is factually incorrect?
No, they do deserve less in general. That's a fact. Most women are not wife material or girlfriend worthy material at all.
Okay. All right. Well,
All right.